El octágono.
Bueno, amigos del octágono, estamos aquí con el presidente, el chairman de Bellator, Bjorn Rebney, que really it was an exciting night of fights, a lot of great fights, especially the 5-round battle we had in the women's division. Really, what was your take on watching that fight and seeing the outcome of it?
You know, it's funny because I got up this morning, I was having breakfast, and I read the USA Today piece and the cover of the sports section of USA Today, and it was all about Megumi Fujii, and it had a picture of her, and then the article, the essence of the article was, we're either going to have the continuation of this legacy of the greatest pound-for-pound female fighter, arguably ever, or we're going to have this monstrous upset and a new superstar. And we got the monstrous upset and the new superstar. I mean, Zoila Frausto came into our organization and knocked out Rosie Sexton in a spectacular knockout on national television, and then she just kept beating people. And then she just tonight, and I said to her, I said, you know, you got to let this sink in. You didn't just win a title, you just beat what many people have called the greatest female fighter ever to step into a cage. And you won the world title doing that. So, I mean, it was just, you know, I mean, that's what Bellator is all about. You know, you give a really good world-class fighter a chance, and then you take your hands off and you let them do what they do. And she did it. She did it loud and clear with emphasis, and that's a spectacular win. I couldn't be happier for her.
And not to take any shine away from Zoila with that, but on her way to this, there was that fight with Jessica Aguilar, which definitely a lot of views of a controversial decision in the end of that fight. And Jessica, when she spoke to us, she said that you guys already spoke about her coming back for the next time that you guys do the women's tournament. What's your view with Jessica and having that rematch that Zoila pointed out she would be willing to have to kind of prove a point?
Yeah, I mean, Jessica Aguilar will always have a place in our organization. In any tournament that we're doing, she'll be part of it. She's a tremendous competitor and a spectacular mouthpiece for this game on the women's side. You know, and she'll be back. So the question is, does she participate in the next tournament and ultimately win the tournament and earn her way to challenge Zoila Frausto? Or do we do a super fight between Zoila Frausto and her? I watched the fight from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I watched it, and when I'm questioning what happened in a fight, when I think something's super close or I have questions, I turn off all the sound, I unplug the headset, and I just watch the fight. And I watch it and I judge it as if I'm sitting there and I can't hear the crowd and I can't hear the announcers. And that was a very, very close fight. Jessica won the third round, Zoila won the first, and then you could flip a coin for the second. But when I looked at it without any sound on, I looked at the fight, I said, you know, you could give this fight to Zoila, you could give this fight to Jessica. And we have judges, and that they made the decision. They gave it to Zoila, and then she comes in and beats the best woman on the face of the earth. So seeing the two of them fight again would be great, because that was very close. You know, that was exceedingly close. I question why world-class grapplers continue to want to stand with Zoila Frausto. I mean, apparently her takedown defense is better than anybody in mixed martial arts, because she never gets taken down.
And that was actually going to be my next question about, were you surprised about Megumi not even trying to take this to the ground at all?
You know, Megumi's a hugely talented fighter, and Josh Barnett is one of the best tacticians in the game in terms of setting up fighters for fights. So I'm a promoter of fighting sports, not a trainer of fighters, and I know enough about the game to be dangerous, but you know, I don't think there's any world-class fighter that would want me training them. So I'm always hesitant to second-guess a strategy. But boy, you know, if somebody put me in the cage against Zoila Frausto, I sure wouldn't stand with her. You know, I would do everything humanly possible, whether it was my double leg in wrestling or whether it was a judo throw, whatever it was, to try to get her to the ground, because that's not her comfort zone. But, you know, I mean, she's an amazingly strong individual. You could see her bracing herself up against the cage. You could see her fighting against a takedown, and it never came. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was they couldn't. That's a difficult question to answer. But it sure would seem that strategically you would want to get her to the ground, because you don't. I mean, she's the most dangerous striker south of 125 in the entirety of women's MMA.
And talking about dangerous strikers, you have one of the most dangerous right now in the middleweight division that's in any MMA category that you can put him in. He's definitely one of these that I consider a monster. I've told him that every time I hear his punches land, it's like a brick hitting a wall. It's something incredible. Hector Lombard says he came in sick. You know, he's I mean, and you can definitely tell that there is something wrong with him. Did you expect this fight to go at the distance as it did, or what did you expect out of it?
if you watch the 3 fights that Alexander Shlemenko had in our tournament season number 2, he started off against Matt Major and he didn't look very good. And I thought, wow, he came out of Europe as one of the top prospects out of Europe, but then he was in against Major and he didn't look very strong. His punches didn't look very crisp. And I thought, well, I don't know what we've got here. Then he came in against Hess, and although his striking wasn't dominant against Hess, his ground game was surprisingly good, which I didn't expect to see because I'd only heard him talk about as a striker. And then the Baker fight, Baker's only loss going in had been to Shale Sonnen, and it was a decision. And Shale just dominated Anderson Silva for 5 straight rounds and made one mistake or he'd be the UFC champion. So, I think Shlemenko we're seeing a bigger collection of what he does well, and we're also seeing a lot of growth out of Shlemenko. He came in here tonight. Did I expect it to go the distance? No. Because I'm used to seeing Hector Lombard walk out for 46 seconds and just knock people's heads off. But, Shlemenko took punches, took punishment. He had a game plan. He was going to come in and try to weather the storm in 1 and 2 and then try to take over in 3, 4, and 5. Well, 4 and 5, he looked very good. But 3, he left on the table to Hector, and Hector won the fight. But it was a lot closer than I ever thought it was going to be. It was close enough where if Shlemenko keeps progressing in his game, I'd love to see a rematch if he could win the next tournament and earn his way back, which he may be able to do because he's a dangerous fighter.
And we heard you in the press conference talking about the whole possible of the Strikeforce fighters, going against the Bellator fighters. You've put all your cards on the line at this point. Every time it seems like Scott's asked a question about it in any kind of press conference, he kind of pushes it to the side a little bit. Is it getting to a point where it's frustrating to you at this point, or is it something that you're just gonna wait till whatever just happens out of Scott himself?
No, I'm not gonna wait. My friends oftentimes describe me as pleasantly relentless, and that's exactly what I'll keep being. If you look at my cell phone, you can see 3 text messages today to Scott. Hey, Scott, I'll fly out to San Francisco and I'll take you to dinner at any restaurant in the city you want to go to. Let's just have a meeting. Hey, Scott, Bjorn again, about to do our show. I continually reach out to him over and over and over again. And I'm doing it in a very pleasant, upbeat way because I like the guy and I think he's a good promoter and he does great shows and I like watching what he does. But his fighter Gilbert called out Eddie. And now Hector's called out Jacare, and I think it would be a spectacular event for us to do. I want to do it. The fighters want to do it. Just got to get Scott on board, and I'm just going to keep calling him until he responds, until he says no. At which point I can say, you know what, we did everything we could, but Scott won't do it. Right now I can't even get him to respond, so it's tough, but I'm just going to stay on it.
And one thing that was heard today was UFC merging with the WEC, adding their lighter lightweights, the featherweights and all that to their category, the UFC. Do you see anything like that similar happening with you guys, adding in the bantamweight, adding in the other weight classes into your promotion?
Oh yeah, the only one we're missing now is 205. Legitimately, we're only missing 205. We've filled out everything at this point other than 205. So we got 35, 45, 55, 70, 85, and heavy, and women. So, and we'll fill out 205, probably not in Season 4, but definitely in Season 5. So we'll have the full spectrum. I think, and it's just me, and I could be completely wrong, but it always kind of strikes me as odd when a fight promotion company decides what weight classes they're going to embrace. They're wickedly talented 35-pounders and great heavyweights and great guys at 45. Arguably the best fight we've ever put on was the 45 world title fight, was the comeback with Warren and Soto. So, and I think you got to, if you're going to promote the fighting sports, I think you got to have them all under one umbrella. And obviously the UFC now is taking on some hugely talented guys at 35 and at 45 and 55 in the WC banner. So it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch Aldo and see what he does there. It'll be fun to watch Uriah and see what he does in terms of where he plants himself if he tries to stay at 35 or bumps, and it's just cool fight stuff.
Oh, thank you again for a great night of fights. Definitely, I enjoyed it more than anything because definitely I had a lot of fun watching those 5-round back and forth. So it was definitely most exciting. But thank you again for another night of fights here in Florida, because we definitely enjoy you here, because I know you call it the other home. Yeah. So definitely we enjoyed it a lot. Thank you again.
Thanks, man.
Para estar más informado, visita www.enoctagono.com.